Program Head at Tech Mahindra based in Vadodara, Gujarat. Joining me today is Mr. Vinod Nair.
That was one of the early lessons that I had because passing out of engineering, going into the production floor, I was managing a team of about 40 people at that point of time.
It's really inspiring that you took those setbacks, those challenges as an opportunity to learn and apply that in your leadership style in the coming years.
You may be able to get across to the customer and, come to a logical conclusion.
Hey everyone, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I'm your host Charu Mehra, and today's episode is one you'll want to stay with till the end. On this show, we sit with leaders who don't just manage work, they manage pressure, people, performance, and promises. And today's guest has lived inside the engine room for all four. He spent over 17 years at Tech Mahindra, moving from project manager to customer delivery manager in the United States, and now serving as program head in India, where outcomes are measured by effort, they're measured by SLA performance, customer trust, and financial discipline. Before IT services, he built his foundation in manufacturing and operations, product supervision, maintenance, material planning, inventory turns, supply chain planning, and even ERP implementation. He's one of those rare leaders who understands delivery like a full circuit, from shop floor realities to boardroom expectations. Joining me today is Mr. Vinod Nair, Program Head at Tech Mahindra based in Vadodara, Gujarat. Mr. Vinod, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Charu. The pleasure is all mine. I mean, this is a privilege to be speaking to you and, expressing my experience, talking about my experience and how delivery has kind of, changed over the years. So this should be an interesting discussion to have.
Great. I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you as
Sure.
well. So, what stood out to me while preparing for this conversation is this: your career isn't growth, it's range. So, today the audience is going to get something very practical: how to lead delivery when expectations are high, time is short, and the customers doesn't care how hard it was. So, let's get right into it. Mr. Vinod, you've built a career across operations, supply chain, ERP, project management, customer delivery, and program leadership. And you've done it across India and the United States.
Right.
So let me start simple. When you think back on early part of your career, maybe on the production floor, maybe in operations, what's something about leadership that genuinely surprised you? Something you fully didn't understand until you were there actually responsible for outcomes.
I would say one of the main things that came out was that when you say leadership, I mean, we are talking about leaders, but then when you talk about leadership per se, it can come from unexpected quarters. That was one of the early lessons that I had because passing out of engineering, going into the production floor, I was managing a team of about 40 people at that point of time. So it kind of, for some people, it can be overwhelming. For some, it can get onto the head. All of those kind of things can happen. It can be a mixed thing depending on the day it is. But the most important thing is when you are having a bad day or when things are not going well on the shop floor. Because in production, at that point of time, the maximum amount of value add to the product that was happening, about 40% of the value add that was happening was in my section, which is called the scoring and polishing section, right? So in that, if something goes wrong, then the product is also lost, you're losing time, orders get behind, and all of those kind of things can happen. And when you have people on the shop floor who have been doing that job for 20 years, 15 years, and all those kind of things, naturally, me being a greenhorn getting over there, but I'm managing that team. So most of those guys, I mean, even today, for that matter, that is something that has not changed. Is when you look at some greenhorn who has come in, they will be like, let's see what this guy will do. But then there are people who will kind of, they may not say it, but then they will take it upon themselves to kind of, without saying, help you out. And in this instance, that what happened, because we were having an issue with our polishing section.
Right.
Somebody who was about maybe not much older than me, but he already had about 5-6 years experience. Kind of he stepped up and did the magic for us, and it kind of went well from there. So the summary of that is that as a leader, we need to be on the lookout for such people or such instances where you will get nuggets from unexpected quarters, because particularly in today's world, you can't be a know-it-all. It's not going to happen, right? I mean, to me, one of the biggest examples that I can think about is our reforms itself when it happened in '92, right? Out of nowhere, Mr. Narasimha Rao brought Mr. Manmohan Singh, because at that point of time, I think Mr. Manmohan Singh either was chief advisor to Saudi Arabian government or he was governor of the RBI. He was never a politician, right? So to bring that person in, knowing that he has that capability to do what he wants him to do, and then make that change, all that, we are living that, the fruits of whatever he did at that point of time, right? So in a way, that was one major thing early in my career, and I'm thankful that it happened at that point of time, because this was barely within, I would say, 5 to 6 months of my start of my career after post engineering. And production shop floor is always a very overwhelming situation, and particularly since we were talking about weather, it gets very hot in manufacturing environment, particularly in the polishing sections. Right. Because when you are grinding things out, there is a lot of heat that gets generated along with water. So then there is a lot of humidity in the air and heat on top of that. So anybody and everybody will lose their mind, basically. So in that kind of an environment, to get that kind of a help and then kind of ride on top of that gives you confidence, and you learn a very, very valuable lesson. Right. So that has helped me throughout my career. So,
wow. I feel that it is, the way you opened up about the setbacks really shows such honest leadership maturity, Mr. Vinod. And I also believe that, it's really inspiring that you took those setbacks, those challenges as an opportunity to learn and apply that in your leadership style in the coming years. So kudos on that, sir, and thank you for sharing that with us. Mr. Vinod, you've led delivery in roles where SLAs aren't just metrics, they are trust contracts. So when you take over a review or review a program today, what are the first signs that tell you this program is stable versus this one is one escalation away from chaos?
Good question. I mean, I did have multiple programs like that, and generally speaking, even if it is a new project that is starting off or a project that is being taken over, there are nuances to it. But in terms of some of the commonalities that you look at is the trend of the ticket volume. Right. If it is kind of increasing, but there is no real business driver, which is causing that, that's a cause for concern. Because even though our conversion rate may be good, all of those kind of things will be great, but then without having any proper business driver, if the volume is rising, that's a cause for concern. Right. Because something is like it's like there is slight smoke somewhere, but nobody is catching it, and that is what is causing it, right? Second thing would be you have good conversion. SLA metrics are like 85%, 90%, whatever it may be. But the reopening of those tickets is also high. Yes. The trend is on the upward tick. Maybe slightly, but still. Because at the end of the day, when you look at any smooth operation, it is about discipline. Once a process has been set, how do you follow it? Everybody in the supply chain, so to say, in that chain of events that is happening, everybody needs to do their role properly. Right.
Right.
Even if somebody misses something because things are going smooth, okay, let me skip over this. It can have ripple effects later on, which
Absolutely.
we may not know today. It can come back
Absolutely.
later to bite us. So from that perspective, some of the trends that I would generally look at when I'm taking over, volume is definitely one. Then what we call as the mean uh, resolution time, as in the time it is taking for different kind of tickets when it is coming in, whether it is a priority one, priority two, priority three, and so on and so forth. Then these are all the technical aspects that we are talking about, right? The other side of it is the psychology of the team. When you talk to them, how you get a feeling of
Absolutely.
where they are, where their mindset is.
Right.
Because if there is a sense of fear, or if there is a sense of, if this doesn't happen, then this penalty can apply, or penalty can apply. Contract may say that, but from
Right.
a psychology standpoint of view, if the team is feeling that, then again, things may look all good as far as the metrics are concerned. Everybody is gung ho about it, but there is something brewing, and it can lead to attrition at some point of time. Again, attrition trend is one part, of course, but then if the team is generally happy with the remuneration and all those kind of things, but
Right.
the pressure of work can be telling, and it can only come out when you speak to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then the other thing would be, yes, from a technical standpoint, one more thing that I would generally look at is the backlog and the aging of that backlog.
Right.
Because sometimes what happens is that when there is a trust, like you said, the trust contract is there. What may happen is that some of the difficult tickets that are out there, because it is P3 or P4, and it is not very important from a metric standpoint of view, people may try to keep it aside, just because the numbers should look good.
Right.
And and again, um, because it is P3, P4, and things like that, it may remain like that for some point of time. But at some point of time, it can suddenly become a P2 or a P1,
Yes.
right? And then whole hell breaks loose. Because at that point of time, then the question will come, boss, why was this ticket not taken up earlier? Why was it not given its proper due diligence? All of
Right.
those kind of things will come,
Absolutely.
which then again will lead to all kind of issues. So yeah, so these are some of the things that I would look at. But from the team perspective, again, one more important aspect would be, when I said the psychology, if you are taking up any, let's say, as a delivery head, you would generally want to know what kind of P1 tickets have come, what kind of P2 tickets
Yes.
have come, right?
Yes.
And even if they have got resolved within the SLA parameter and things like that, whoever is the resolution person, when you speak to them, and actually there is a team, when you speak to them, if you are getting a sense that, okay, um, the resolution has been provided, or after speaking to somebody in the team, and there are only one or two people who are the linchpins on whom the entire team is
Right.
depending, then again you would think that there is a issue of cross skilling, upskilling,
Yes.
and if that person who is the linchpin, and if they tomorrow, if that becomes an attrition case, even if
That's
the
all
attrition is
about.
low, still it's a big problem, because
Yes.
then the entire team's dependency on that person, and that person is going, then it's just like one ticket away from
Right.
everything going to toss. So
Right.
yeah, so these are some of the aspects that I would look at when I'm stepping into a project. And to take an example, we had one such case not so far in the past. Actually, it was about 3 years, 4 years back, where I had to take up a project, and this project was already in progress. And if there is a deeper red color that you can think of, so that was the status basically, because the contract had been screwed up. It was a migration project, but then in the migration project, when the contract was written, the number of jobs that need to be migrated and things like that, it was not very clearly written over there.
Okay.
Because generally what happens is, getting a little bit technical, when you have jobs that have to be migrated, there can be sub jobs,
Right.
subroutines and all of those kind of things, which can be a job by itself to migrate. So those were not taken into account. It was just, and the estimation was done according to that, according to whatever was the original number of jobs that was given. Therefore, it was underestimated. Everybody knows about it. But then the thing is, the customer is like, oh, contract is written, you have to abide by it and go forward with it. So sometimes it happens that you may be able to get across to the customer and come to a logical conclusion and get an extension. Sometimes customers are customers, so it can get into a different direction altogether. So
Right.
long story short, yes, we ended up with that project from a financial standpoint of view that we ended up a little bit red on that. But then the point is that all of these points that I just spoke about, I had to kind of, over a period of 4 months, I had to put in place uh, to kind of allow for the project manager, who was in turn reporting into me, to be the point of contact and get things done, because otherwise everything was coming to me,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
And if you have 11 accounts and multiple projects under them, one single project taking all of your time is not going to help, neither
Agreed.
me nor the team, right?
Agreed.
So it took about 3 to 4 months to kind of get all of these things in place, and then go from there. So yeah, so I would say these are some of the important points that I would look at when I'm stepping into a new program or a project rather.
Great,
Yeah,
great. The way you've broken down those early signals really makes the delivery world feel sort of real and actionable.
right.
And I really love how you contrasted stability and the silent chaos within the teams. It gives such a clear picture of how you read the program. So thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
views on. All right. So moving on, you've done something many people talked about, but very few can truly execute. You've handled customer delivery in the United States for 7 years,
Right.
where expectations are direct, timelines are tight, and accountability is instant.
Right.
What did the US delivery experience teach you about client leadership that changed how you run programs today in India?
Good point. One very important thing from my US experience was value for time.
Ah,
Very, very important. I mean, I think in India, what happens is, because we are supporting US customers or European customers for that matter, so the 24 hours kind of becomes like, oh, you need to be available all 24 hours
all,
and things like that,
yeah,
right? And if you have multiple teams also spread across geographies, like we call as the distributed agile teams and all those kind of things,
right, right.
and again, it kind of takes all of your day. So from that perspective, one thing was value for time, because uh, once the day is done, then unless otherwise the sky is falling down or something like that is happening, then only you get disturbed. Otherwise, it's your time. So from a
Yes.
balance standpoint of view, it was a great experience, and it was an eye opener, because by the time I went to US, I already had about 10 years of experience, you
Mhm.
know, and this particular client for whom I was executing this program, it was a manufacturing organization, right? They were into home appliances manufacturing and things like that. So naturally, I went to their shop floor also to look at how do they operate and things like that. And it was very different in terms of discipline and in terms of accountability. It was very
Yes.
different from what we do in India. Now, I do have my share of manufacturing experience, so I won't say that every Indian organization is like that. When you look at like a Maruti, or for that matter, TVS or something like that, they may be different. But I did have experience with Tata, you know, with Delphi, which is the second largest, auto ancillary company in the world.
Mhm.
So from that perspective, value for time was one very important thing. Second thing was the preparation that goes, the planning and the prep work that goes into a project being executed, right?
Right.
Which in the Indian context, sometimes in the thing that, oh, we have to get to the customer quickly, we have to do this, do that, it gets diluted, you know.
Yes.
And that is one second very important thing that I learned over there, that they go through that cycle multiple number of times, still there will be some residual confusion or something that is remaining. But the preparation work is so good that even though that confusion or some gaps are still there, it can be remediated during the course of the project. It is not like, oh, we have done only 50% planning and 50% is like, let's see how it goes. It's not like that. It would be at least 85, and then 10 or 15 is being left that, okay,
That will happen.
that will happen. Or in terms of the risk mitigation also, in terms of severity, in terms of occurrence and things like that, we will have a proper planning. Now, I'm not saying in India it doesn't happen, but then the point is, I would say 7 out of 10 times, let's put it that way, we may do lip service to doing those kind of things, but we actually don't do it. And most important thing is that to start off an engagement and things like that, we may actually put together all these documents because, PMP says so or Prince 5 says so. But then the most apart from discipline that I was mentioning, previously, the other part is the consistency. That are you keeping these things updated? Are you following through? So when you have risks identified at the beginning of the project, midway during the project, the occurrence or the severity of the risk would have changed.
Right.
So I should be going and updating that on a frequent basis and seeing that, okay, now which risk is on the, much more severe or much more higher occurrence level and things like that, and remediate for that. But if I don't do that, I may still be looking at what was there initially.
Yes.
And then, like we said previously, some escalation or something would be waiting to happen and you may be caught. Right. So from that perspective, the preparation work, which was there, and that is still something that, I am trying from my perspective to kind of instill, but it is a long shot as far as India is concerned. And I mainly do believe it is also because of the flexibility of time. Because when you're in US, and even if you are dealing with a client, you are in US.
Yes.
So you are in their time zone.
Their time zone.
But when you're here, it's a different time zone. So kind of, even if you're trying to do this, kind of gets blurred. But from the value for time standpoint of view, at least for my reportees, the next levels and things like that, I've been able to kind of, keep that, okay, if we are starting at 11 in the morning or things like that, I will try my level best to not touch them before 11. Unless otherwise there is, an escalation or something like that has happened. And then, of course, during the day, there will be different meetings and things like that. But then your time is your time, because somehow I won't call it a work-life balance or anything like that, because it's kind of, jargonized and too many things have been written about it and spoken about it at different levels. But the thing is that when you know that this is your time and, nobody's coming at that point of time, unless otherwise something is wrong, then you can plan things according to that.
Yes.
And don't feel overwhelmed. Don't know where the next call is going to come from. Right. So these two things I would say were the primary things that I learned. And I will give you an example. We did, because it was a large program, it was an IT transformation project entirely. To give you a context, they had about 415 applications that they were running with. And over a period of 5 years, we were able to decommission about 30% of them.
Okay.
But when you are trying to do that, then every application that you're looking at is kind of, oh, we can decommission this. And whatever the new technologies, we can build something on it, or an ERP system can be brought in. It's always there. So we had an architecture team, which I was part of. So they had a what they call as local delivery, which is the application that they were using for delivering home appliances to consumers. So it was a B2C kind of scenario, right?
Okay.
And they had warehouses that they were doing it. And this particular application was kind of the heartbeat for the local delivery team. And even I was of the opinion that we should kind of, chuck it, bring in something new, and do the engagement and so on and so forth. But the thing was that the team, that particular team kind of held on to that belief now that we should not change it, because all these warehouses and everybody's kind of trained on it. and it has been in existence for a long period of time. The change management would be huge and all of those kind of things. And thank God that they stuck to their guns, because sometimes what can happen is the architecture team can be overwhelming, right?
Yes.
Because we can override anything. We are like gods at that point of time, particularly when you're having a transformation project. So again, that particular example that I was taking initially about, leadership coming from unexpected quarters, even though you didn't like it at that point of time, because you think that because you're part of the architecture team and what do these guys know, and they are still living in the old world and things like that. But then over a period of time, you understood the merit, and probably they themselves wouldn't have thought about it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the point is that they had some good arguments, which kind of over and above whatever we were thinking about it, it went above that, and it kind of worked out pretty well. And we were able to integrate our ERP with that particular application. And of course, still, when you do the integration, there will be some changes that are happening, which will need some amount of change management. But that change management, if it was 20%, if we would have gone all out, then it would have been, I don't know, more than 100% actually. Because you're dealing with people in the warehouse. So you need something very easy for them to learn and react quickly. So therefore, to both these things, the planning and the prep and the value for time, both these things kind of came together in this particular example. Because if the preparation work was not done properly, the planning was not done properly, then probably we would have taken the jump.
Agreed.
And gone ahead and created all kind of chaos. And the business probably would have got affected, because that is your delivery, team, and they are the ones who are supposed to deliver. And if they get stopped, everything else, the financials can get hit because of that. Cash flow can get hit. Right. So from that perspective, these two things I would say were the biggest learnings for me as far as my US experience was concerned.
Wow. The way you describe that shift from working in the US to leading programs here in India is incredibly eye-opening. And I really love how you turn real pressure moments into simple, powerful principles that guide you and your teams today. So thank you for sharing and giving your input on that.
Sure. I would say this. I mean, one thing that I felt when I was in the US was pressure is privilege, particularly when you're leading a team. Before that, that was not my thought. I'll be honest with you. Even now, there will be instances in which, things, you would feel that this is wrong. This is not the correct thinking. But then when you have, a sane mind and think about it, pressure is privilege, because at the end of the day, you are improving somebody's business, and there is a certain definite timeline with which you are working. And as soon as the timeline and that constraint comes in, there is already pressure, right? And therefore, when you are working within that and transforming something, it's a big fruit at the end of the day.
This sort of gives me a feeling that you perform well in under pressure, right?
I would think so. And at the end of the day, if an organization has kind of given me that, I have about 11 accounts that are being managed by me in the data analytics area. So I think they do also feel the same, like you said. But I would definitely make it a point, and this is something I would say from a leadership standpoint of view, I always say this, particularly for my next level, that when you look up to your next level and things like that, of course, they say, oh, what a great leader this guy is, and this and that. But there will be instances in which you will learn what you should not do as a leader. So learn from that also, because you should not repeat.
Right.
So that is one thing from a pressure standpoint of view that I always believe, that you are in a certain position because you are able to take that pressure. Doesn't mean that you need to translate that pressure to your next level.
That is such a great point that you put across.
So you need to kind of, because there are instances, and I'm sure in your experience also you would have heard and seen, wherein as soon as the next level has a pressure, anything happens, immediately it translates onto your head that, okay, boss, you are not doing your job. That's why my life is hell. Which is not the right thing to do at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Right.
So all of these experiences has given me that. And when you have that kind of an experience, naturally you've gone through all that grind, then that's when that kind of a statement will come, that pressure is privilege and you are able to handle it, basically.
In my time when I was working with corporates, I hardly saw someone or worked with someone who thought like the way you are thinking.
I know.
It has always been the same. If I have pressure, if my manager has the pressure, it will definitely
It
be
will come.
passed down to
It
the
will come.
team
It
below.
will come. It will come. So, I
So,
mean, again, it has to be balanced in that way, that what is that you want to pass on? Because
exactly.
sometimes messaging
Yes.
also needs to be done.
Right, right, right. Like you
But then it
can't just
doesn't mean
let everything go.
exactly. It cannot be that, oh, I have got this, now you take this.
Right.
Then why am I sitting in between, right? So, don't need. Then it can be what is kind of a cross docking, not required.
All right. So now you're program head, which means you're balancing people management, SLA performance, and financial reporting all at once.
Yeah.
My question to you is, what's the hardest part of leadership and delivery that no dashboard captures? Something senior leaders should worry about more, but often don't.
Yeah. Good point. They like we discussed in the previous discussion as well. We were looking at SLAs, all of those kind of things. But still, the most important things that, from my perspective, that I have seen, and from a leadership standpoint, we should look at is, you may be showing green on all parameters and things like that, but does the customer trust you on that?
Hmm.
Which no dashboard will tell you.
Yes. Yes.
Number one. Number two, is your team, I would use the term, psychologically safe, in terms of delivering whatever metrics that we are delivering.
Right. Right.
Particularly when you have penalties involved and all of those kind of things, which the team should know, definitely, because you need to be transparent about it, that if you're missing certain metrics and things like that, this is the kind of penalization that can happen and all of
Right.
those kind of things.
Right.
So it is important that they should know about it. But even if they know about it, are they secure enough in their mindset that, okay, but if I follow this process, if I keep the discipline, if I'm being consistent with what I'm doing, I will hit the metrics, I will get it done. So I need not bother about the penalty and all of those kind of things. It is there, it is in the contract. So are they psychologically safe? So these two things I mean, there may be others also, but broadly speaking, these are the two things, because one is on the customer side,
Yeah, customer side.
external, one is internal, right?
Right. Right.
So both these things are something that the dashboards won't tell you, right? Critically speaking, what happens is, many a times, as leaders, what we need to do is to bridge the gap between perception and reality,
Right.
right? And it's not an easy thing. And if you are transparent and if you are confident about the delivery process that you are following and getting it done, you want to show the customer the reality. But sadly speaking, many a times what happens is, for whatever reason, because you are not just the only stakeholder that is involved, right? There are other stakeholders involved. What can happen is that everybody is worried about the perception. It is important, no doubts about it, because even if you're doing a good job, if the perception is not good, things can tank very easily.
Agreed.
But then the point is, that is the fight. How do you bridge that gap to show the reality and tell the customer that, okay, things may be looking bad, but then trust me, this is the timeline that we are looking at, in which we will kind of remediate all of that. So that is very important. To take an example, one of the oldest pressure vessels and boiler organizations in the world, based out of the US again, we had a similar situation with them. And again, uh, as leaders, one other thing that comes through on all of these things, which is very technical, is the contract. If you have not been part of the original contract being written and all of those kind of things, naturally, it's a legacy that you are getting. And then it is how best you deal with it. But then if you are in a position to actually do something and influence on the contract,
Mm-hmm.
you need to spend a lot of time with that. to make
Right.
sure that things are, safeguarded. So in this situation, it was a similar situation where I didn't have any control over the contract because it was already written 3 years back. And we were in a situation where the project was being managed as if it is a managed services,
Okay.
which would mean that the accountability lies with me and my team as in the
Right.
service provider. But the financials were being run in time and material mode. So which would mean that if it is time and material mode, then customer is the one who should be dictating, which work is being done by whom. And
Right.
then at the end of the day, the SLA should not come into picture. Or
Agree.
even if the SLA is coming into picture, then it is mutual accountability. But it was not the case because naturally the client doesn't want to take accountability on SLA, right? So even though it was that they are deciding to whom this ticket needs to go and all of those kind of things, but at the end of the day, when the SLA was not being met, we are the ones who are getting down.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it was a very hard discussion to have because the customer wants to have their way
Right.
to get things done. So you have to kind of show them what is wrong with this particular arrangement, show them evidence initially, and there is no silver bullet for this, no dashboard, nothing will help you in terms of how you kind of navigate through, because my experience and your experience in a similar situation will be altogether different.
Right.
Client differs, right? Even with the same client also, it may differ, right? Depending on whom you're dealing with. So it took a good, I would say, 6 weeks to kind of work through that. And you had to take your team along with you to kind of gather all that evidence because they are not looking at it. They are firefighting on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have time for all of these things, right? So when you are going and asking for this kind of an evidence, that kind of an evidence, naturally for them, it is an overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So then it is a negotiation that you are having, even with the lowest level in your team, how this is important, how it can make your life easier in the future. They may not trust you at that point of time, but then since you are the delivery head and you are telling them, they will do it. They have to do it. But then the point is that over a period of time, people will see the merit of that exercise being done.
Right.
And that is important because the evidence that you have gathered, you are showing it to the customer to make your life easier. And once that life has become easy, it is important that you need to show to that next level from whom you have gathered that evidence, that the evidence that you provided earlier, this is the result of that. That
Yes.
now, the things have come around. Now your life has become easier. Now the finger pointing and all of those kind of things that were happening earlier has kind of taken its course. Now it's you are in control and you run the show. So this particular fight of bridging the gap
Yeah.
is the fight as far as the delivery head is concerned. And my vote always is that you need to be real. There should not be any sugarcoating in terms of what is going on. If things are going bad, you have to talk about it. And more importantly, your team should not be afraid to come and tell you
Right.
how bad it is.
Right. Right.
Again, it's a balance. It should not be a case of saying the wolf is coming every time, because then again everybody will be overwhelmed by that. But then how do you gather that information out of all the noise that is getting created, and how do you empower your next levels to do that as well?
Right.
Because
Right.
you yourself will not be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have people in leadership positions, they should also be able to do that exact same thing that I'm supposed to be doing,
Agree.
and weed out that noise and gather information accordingly and
Right.
face the customer.
Right.
So that's the thing which no dashboard will tell you, basically.
Absolutely. And I also feel that, it's sort of interconnected. So it's like that gap between reality and perception is
Yeah,
what dictates the trust of clients.
precisely,
So if you
precisely,
bridge that gap, the trust will automatically build.
exactly. So again, when you have a distributed team, if suppose team is sitting in India, you have somebody in Middle East, somebody sitting in Malaysia, because you are providing round the clock support.
Right. Right.
This particular aspect becomes even more difficult, because then there is cultural sensitivity involved,
Agreed. Agreed.
language involved, all of those kind of things. So, like we say, lost in translation. Many of the things, even if your intention is right, and if you think that the translation has worked properly, the other person may not understand.
Why not? Agreed.
So, again, there is no silver bullet for this. It's how you, talk to people, how you gather information. So I did make it a point. I have about 140 people in my team, spread across multiple geographies.
Right.
So I will try to at least reach out to every one of them, a quarter. In a quarter, at least once, 15 minutes, if I'm able to reach any of those people, maybe not just by myself, but my next level to whom that person is reporting, or the next level to whom that person is reporting. But at least do that to get a sense of how things are,
How things are.
just say hi, hello. That's all.
Right. Right.
Because that ownership needs to be felt by everybody.
Agreed.
And then feel empowered in terms of making whatever is that the work that they're doing, they need to own it and run it as if they're running an organization.
Right. Right.
That's the important thing. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. You took us
Sure.
straight into the part of delivery leadership most people never see. And it actually shows that what's the gap between what's on dashboard and what's happening inside a team on a tough week. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Moving on to our next segment, which is the rapid fire round. Quick and honest answers. You just have to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Absolutely.
Okay? All right, the first one. What's the first thing you do when you start your workday?
There are some affirmations that I make for myself to kind of, start the day, including a Sanskrit shloka that Hanuman shloka that I keep for myself. So yeah, these two things I do as soon as I get up, first thing in the morning, to make sure,
The days
things
goes
go smooth.
well.
With the hope that things go smooth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Next one. One skill every program manager must build, but most avoid.
I would say, it's a cliched answer, I would say, but then it is negotiation and conflict management. People try to, because naturally you're dealing with people, and as a program manager, you will deal a whole sort of people. And especially what you need to understand is that when you have talented people in your team, talented people are high maintenance. So there will be egos, there will be conflicts. You need to get ahead of it. As soon as you see a issue that is cropping up, or if you hear about something, you need to get ahead of it rather than keeping it aside or allowing things to happen. Because when that happens, where it will hit and how it is going to impact is an unknown. And unknown is an unknown anyways.
Right.
So if you already know about it, and then take small actions. It's not necessary that you have to directly go and confront about it. Conflict management is not put these guys into a room and I will have a discussion. It's not like that, right? So the nuances of conflict management and negotiation is what people need to kind of learn. And because you're dealing with people, that can only happen with experience.
Right.
You may get the tricks of trade by watching some, you can go through a course. There are so many things. YouTube itself will give you a lot of inputs in terms of how do you want to deal and all those kind of things. But unless you don't put that into action and actually do it, you will not learn from that, right? Because if you have 10 people, there are 100 different behaviors.
Right, right.
So one that worked with one person will not work with the other guy. So read the person and go with that. So that is one important thing that I would certainly say that any program manager, program head needs to learn right from the project manager level. Actually, it may not be as serious at that level, but then when the larger the team, it's very important.
Okay, all right. Moving on to next one. A leadership habit that quietly improved your life.
Um, Okay, first thing that comes to mind, we already discussed about it, that leadership can come from any
Any.
walk of life, right? So, and the other thing related to that would be that uh, keep your eyes and ears open. When I say that, I mean, it's easier said than done, because you always will have that thing that, okay, 20 years of experience, 25 years of experience, seen it all, done it all, that kind of thing. And you can get into that kind of a, headspace sometimes. But then how do you kind of switch off from that and come back and keep an open mind to listen, not hear, listen to what is being said? That's very important.
Right. Okay. Next one is, if you had to disconnect for a week, where would you go?
Mountains, any
Mountains.
mountains for that matter. Uh, that's another thing that keeps on happening, because in my family, most of my people are like, they're all beach people.
Beach people.
So I have to fight for, getting to mountains. So again, negotiation on that.
Negotiation. Okay, next one. What kind of music helps you reset after a long day?
Mostly instrumental music. Any kind of instrumental music is good, because um, music, I mean, especially the theory of music is that even if it is some Scottish music or some kind of music which is not Indian even, but then when you hear it, you can always put your words on it,
Hmm.
if you have to put. Otherwise, it's just that depending on your mood, any kind of instrumental music kind of soothes you.
Yes.
So then you need not even worry about the words, and find the meaning of the words and all those kind of things. It's just
Right.
you're there and it is kind of playing around. So yeah, instrumental music is what I prefer.
Okay, next one. One food you can never say no to.
Pizza.
Pizza. That's a very rare answer. Usually people say dal chawal or
Yeah,
some
yeah, no, no, no.
homemade dish.
All of those things are there, no doubts about it. But if you tell me, like, even if I had a full meal and after that, if somebody says, have a slice of pizza,
You'll
I'll
say.
have it. Yeah. And that is something that my younger one has also got from me, I think. So, not a good habit, but then, yeah, okay. It's
Okay, the last one for the day is one small daily ritual that keeps you grounded.
even if you had a good day, and this is something, uh, I think it was Julius Caesar, I think, wherein everybody was like, you are God, you are this, you are that. But then he always had two people behind him. While he was getting back to his room every day, they will always be behind, telling him that at the end of the day, you are human.
Hmm.
So same thing applies. I mean, I don't have an entourage for that, but then make sure that that particular thing is there in mind, even if you've gone wrong or even if you've gone right.
All right.
In both the instances, just remind yourself you are human. You're not perfect.
Stay
So
grounded.
stay grounded in that respect. So don't beat yourself also, and don't go up so high that was now I am at level at par with God, or I will I have spoken like a god and all those kind of things.
Right, right.
No, be human.
Great. Okay, that was so great, Mr. Vinod. And I really love doing this round because you sort of get to know the person behind the professional.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank you for being so honest and candid with us. Mr. Vinod, over the last decade, the IT services and global delivery industry has seen multiple high profile failures, missed delivery commitments, manipulated reporting, hidden overcost, uh, hidden cost overruns,
right,
weak controls, and in some cases, reputational damage that went far beyond one project or one client.
right.
So, from your vantage point as a program head at Tech Mahindra, when you look at delivery related scandals or major client failures in this industry, what do you think actually goes wrong before things explode publicly? And what should leaders be paying attention to much earlier?
I think some of the pointers we already touched upon, but
Yes.
then most important thing is uh, in terms of the information that you can gather, and you need to be looking at trends of what is going on, because the current dashboard may show things, but then even if you're taking over a project, generally what happens is, from an ownership standpoint of view, when you take up the transition is happening and all of those kind of things, you're still in that honeymoon period,
Right.
thinking that, okay, whatever is going on at this point of time, it's not my responsibility. Whoever is the previous guy, even if something goes wrong, I can always put it on to the other guy and all those kind of things. But
Right.
the most important at that point of time is where you can actually learn a lot of things, as far as what can happen in the future. Because when you look at the trends, and everybody, this is another skill, I would say. And today it is far more easier. Earlier it was not. Today, with analytics kind of taking off the way it is taking off, it is actually easier to look at trends of what is going on.
Right.
So when you gather that information, there is already early indications of things that may be not looking right.
Right.
So some of the pointers that we already spoke about, right? The volume increase without any thing. Or the other way around also would be that the ticket closure rate has improved, but there is no such process improvement that has seemingly happened.
Um,
Then how is that the volume, or rather the closure rate has
Closure
increased
rate.
suddenly? Yeah.
Yes.
So all of those pointers you should be kind of looking at, and I especially kind of empower my team to look at um, running. If suppose my portfolio is about 11 accounts that I have, in which there are about 30 odd projects that are running.
Mm-hmm.
I have some 4 or 5 people who are reporting into me. Each of them have their own portfolios, right?
Right.
What I try to encourage is for them to run as if it is a micro organization. So what happens is, generally speaking, as a delivery head, of course, you are responsible for the P&L of the portfolio and things like that.
Right.
But then the next levels are not into those kind of things. They are only looking at operations. Oh, there is metrics to be met, this is that, and all those kind of things. But unless you don't make them literate on these things, on the financial aspect of things, and all of those kind of things, not just from this micro organization aspect that I'm talking about, even in terms of your succession planning, even in terms of other things, or keeping the delivery smooth when some people are not available, or you know um, are on vacation and things like that, delivery has to run smooth.
Right. Right.
So unless people don't feel empowered that they are covering all aspects of their portfolio, uh, it will always come back to you that, okay, oh, this thing I don't know. Only the delivery head knows about it. So
Right.
therefore,
Right.
go and speak to that person. And you may feel important by that, but at the end of the day, it's an overhead,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if a process has been set in place and you are expecting your next levels to go through it, own it, you need to empower them for that also.
So that. Right.
So from that perspective, and by doing that, these early signals will come to you. People will not be afraid to come and give you the bad news.
Right. Right.
You will hear, more importantly, when people come and tell you something, the voice is always there, but you will also hear what is not being said,
Not being said.
right? So gather all of that information, and then how to kind of manage that situation. Or you may partially know about it, but then once you start taking action, the important thing is to start taking action based on whatever information is available,
Right.
which is sometimes either too early or too late.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you draw that balance? And I need not look too far. Of course, I was only 10 years into my experience when the Satyam saga happened.
Yes.
So I was part of Satyam at that point, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in a project at that point of time in the Middle East, and I had a team. I was project managing that engagement, and it was a fantastic project. To this day, that project is still, the ERP implementation that we did is on. It's completed, and the organization is using it. Fantastic engagement. But then in the middle of that engagement is when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure at that point of time, people who were consolidating the business, looking at all the invoicing that is happening, the amount of invoicing that is happening, there were early indications which would have showed that whatever we are stating and whatever is actually happening, there is a big gap in that.
Big gap.
Right? And somebody had to ask that question. And that was also one of my inspirations, that when this thing came through, that I need to look at something like this, where I can be in a position of influence, where if these kind of, I should be able to look at these early indicators and take those decisions, because somebody, to put it very flatly, somebody somewhere screwed up, and so many lives were put at stake at that point of time, right? Yeah, these are some of the pointers that would definitely look at and go from there.
Wow. That breakdown of early signals that you gave is so real, and it's exactly what leaders miss when they only rely on dashboards. We've talked about this in
Right.
the previous questions. Like, you need to
Exactly.
see go beyond dashboards to understand what is actually happening. And the way you describe those behavioral patterns gives a completely different view of why things go wrong. So thank you for sharing your views on this with us.
Absolutely. I will take one example if you have time.
Please go ahead.
So this was probably immediately after my B school. So I was working with Tata, and we had a situation wherein, and this was a perfect transition example, because this was supply chain planning that we were doing for exports, and we were delivering to Ford in Europe at that point of time. Okay. And now we have Ford Focus in India. At that time, it was not there. And Ford Focus in Europe at that point of time was the car of the year 4 years consecutively. So we were supplying for them at that point of time. And we had warehouses in 2-3 different places, one in Germany, one in Spain, all of those places. And we were sending containers from here. So these were plastic components that were going. So it, like the dashboards, the side, when you have the door, when you have the handle and things like that, there are plastic components over there, right? So we were exporting that. So my predecessor, when he was moving out, gave me a very good picture of the warehouse, that this is how it looks like. We have enough stock for 20 days, because that was a cycle. Every container that you're sending is reaching them in like 20 days, right? So we always had 2 containers in circulation, all of those kind of things. Everything good. And more importantly, these stocks were being maintained in Excel sheets and things like that. There was no system as such. Even for Ford at that point of time, they had some DOS-based application that they were looking at, old system. This I'm talking about 2003, 4, right? So almost 20 years now. So now my next level, after this guy has kind of left and all of those kind of things have happened, he had an early indicator in terms of whatever he was looking at. He came back and asked me, what is the stock situation that this guy has given you? And I said, this is what has been given. Now he was doing some cross check on his end, in the Ford system and things like that, and he didn't see what was being shown in the Excel sheet.
Okay.
And the reality was that some of these parts were hardly there for 5 or 10 days remaining in the warehouse. Now, what would happen is that if Ford line, because these parts were being delivered from the warehouse to Ford in just-in-time basis.
Right.
And if the Ford line, if the parts are not there, and for 15 minutes they will wait. And if these parts are not there, the car will move ahead, because it's on the conveyor. The car will move ahead without these parts. And how many number of cars without these parts end up? Whatever their value is, multiplied by 2.5 times is what the penalty is going to be. Okay. And every car is going out, like the takt time was about 4.5 minutes. So every 4.5 minutes, there is a car that is going out. So if that car, if for 1 hour, if these parts are not available, then look at the amount of penalty that would, just calculate that. So that was my first interaction that I was having with a foreign person in professionally, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that too, you are dealing with Germans and Spanish people who have a very Germans especially, they are kind of reluctant to speak to you in English. They're very language centric in that respect.
Yes,
And
yes.
Spanish people, just because their accent itself is so difficult to understand, even if they're speaking English. If they don't know the language, then it's a different case altogether. So I had to deal with those people and make sure that there is airlifting happening. The airlifting of the parts are happening,
Paths.
parts such that we don't miss the just in time delivery schedule over there. And fortunately for us, in whole of this mess, so some of these parts that were in deficit in one warehouse had good stock on the other side, and vice versa. Therefore, we were able to do some trucking within Europe to do that. Again, you have to deal with truck companies in Europe,
Yes.
and it's very expensive in Europe. But at this point of time, it was not about the expense that is being dealt. It was about keeping the customer's line going.
Right, right.
So the why I took this example was because my next level was able to look at those early indicators and come up with work with me to, because I was new into it. I got the transition, but then we were able to kind of work together as a team immediately.
Right.
And I was able to kind of deal with these people, although it was my first experience in terms of dealing with you know uh, foreign agents, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
foreign warehouse people and all of those kind of things. But at the end of the day, things worked out and line didn't stop. And it continued. And we were able to kind of, change our production plan to kind of, run 3 ships, send more containers. And over a period of 2 months, then things kind of, settled down.
Came back to normal.
But the important thing was my next level looking at those early indicators that
Yeah.
something is going wrong. And before any major escalation and screw up happens, we were able to take action.
Wow, wow. That's a great example right there.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Uh, Mr. Vinod, you are associated with the Directors Institute World Council of Directors.
Mhm.
So I want to end with this. From your experience of joining Directors Institute, how has that exposure influenced the way you now think about leadership and governance? Not just a program head, but from a board level perspective.
Sure. So two things on that. So one, I think I kind of touched upon in the previous segment itself. My motivation itself of when this opportunity came through to take up was my experience that I had with Satyam. Right. I'm sure the main person involved or the CEO at that point of time, all of those people got docked. But
Right.
board of directors themselves, they had to take responsibility of having seen this, beforehand. They had to see. In some way or the other, they had to see. Because at the end of the day, this happened January 8th, 2009. Still remember the date because it's that pertinent. But then in the previous December, there was a board of directors meeting that happened.
Okay.
And that is where Mr. Raju had actually proposed a merger of Satyam with two of his other companies which were into real estate and infrastructure.
Okay.
Now, how is an IT company merger, viable with a real estate or
Real
a
estate.
infrastructure company, right? So when those kind of proposals are being put forward itself, it needs to be a big, big red flag that
Yes.
something is not right, unless otherwise you are hand in glove with that, right? So that was a big thing for me. That something like that, if it has to be avoided, then naturally you need to be in a position of influence to make the right call and
Right.
not allow that to happen.
Right.
Second thing was now even to my worst enemy, I don't want this to happen. Was this happened in January, right? January of 2009. April of 2009, March or April of 2009, exact same thing happened on the client side.
Oh.
So the project that we were doing was for a large conglomerate in UAE, Middle East, and this was their 34th or 35th company that they had in their entire ecosystem, and this was a greenfield project, a glass manufacturing plant that is being set up, right? So the CEO of that organization, now this is where it's a greenfield project, so there is a project plan, there is a program, installations are happening, erections are happening, all of those kind of things are happening. Again, I'm sure, just like an IT project, in that also you have certain metrics and things like that that you're looking at. Somebody had to take the responsibility that, okay, even if the CEO was doing a misdemeanor somewhere in terms of clocking money and things like that, somebody had to see it. And this was even more dramatic than what happened with Satyam, because this gentleman, one fine day, he went for for a health checkup or something like that, and from there he just took off. He went to the airport and took off, and he escaped. Now, we being an external party who is doing a project over there, naturally the holding company's directors came over, and our project was also finalized during the tenure of that particular CEO who did this fraudulent thing. So naturally, our project also came under scanner. And when they came to us, naturally they know, oh, 3 months back, we also had a similar situation.
Right.
So for them, irrespective of who did it, but I represent an organization which has already committed a fraud.
Right.
Now here, this CEO has committed a fraud. Naturally, I, as the project manager, I should know something, or my company would have paid some kickback to this guy for us getting this project. So the trust deficit was not zero, it was negative. So you have to deal with it. And so that's why I said I don't want that kind of situation to happen even to my worst enemy, because looking back, I don't know how I dealt with it. Again, there is no silver bullet for it.
Agreed.
When you deal with it. So these two experiences, when this particular opportunity came through, I said, yeah, I have to take this, because in both these cases, one was my own organization, the other was where a project was involved. Ours was one of the projects in the set of program, a set of projects within that program that was happening, because it was a very good idea that when you have a greenfield project, an ERP implementation is happening simultaneously, such that by the time the plant is ready and running, this ERP implementation has been completed, and state-of-the-art system is running with the state-of-the-art IT system. So everything goes seamlessly. Perfect idea. Very good. But in terms of execution, somebody was not ethical.
Right.
And that somebody who was not ethical was not seen by others also, that, oh, this guy is doing something and we have to catch him.
Right.
And both these experiences put together kind of, made me that, yes, this is something that I should look at. Third point is our environment, today, the ESG side of things.
ESG side of it.
So even within the ESG also, there is governance, right? It's environment, it's social, and there is governance.
Governance.
So these days, from my experience standpoint of view, I do take some guest lectures and things like that also for the MBA students who are there, right?
Wow.
So I do teach them on subject of management information system and things like that, which is again very close to what I do, and which is also a window to see things and understand what are the indicators that is telling you what is good, what is bad, and all of those kind of things. So when I look at that aspect also, so I said both these things are coming together. The directorship as well as the ESG side of things are coming together in this particular process. I said I have to go for it. So that's how I ended up doing it. And from an eye-opening standpoint, naturally there are things that you don't know about what are those indicators that you should be looking at, which you get to learn. So I completed my both these aspects, when I complete both these aspects, naturally, I will be equipped with with my 25 years of experience to look at those indicators and be ready, uh, and avoid any such kind of things happening, because these are lives at stake.
Yeah,
Particularly
absolutely.
when you talk about a large organization, right? Because at that point of time when the Satyam thing happened, we were close to about 80,000 to a lakh
Wow.
employees in the organization. And even for my team also, my team had about 10 people at that point of time. So you don't know where your next paycheck is going to come from.
Mm.
But the important lesson also at that point of time was, and again, the first point, leadership comes from unexpected
Any
quarters,
walk of life, yes.
right? So in my organization, somebody who was there at that point of time, he was one of the most silent persons that you will see, and you would think, although he was at the C level, but you would never hear him. He was that kind of a guy, and you would also think, yeah, why is there? He's not saying anything,
Mm.
doing anything. But when this
Yes.
fiasco happened,
Mm.
the way he communicated every day with across the board, the mails that used to come, the actions that we are taking, this is what transpired today. Because every day was a new day in that respect, because some investigation is happening, something is going on.
Right.
So he was so good. I can say his name. His name is A.S. Murthy.
Okay.
ASM, we used to call him. Uh, Fantastic. It was a huge leadership lesson in that respect. That although, yeah, he was at an influential level,
Mm-hmm.
but then he took that action and he made it so important for people. Particularly from sales side, there were people who stepped with the company, because sales would say, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but many a time salespeople are the ones who will jump the ship as
And
soon as something goes wrong.
mm.
But there were salespeople who went on record and said, just because ASM was communicating so thoroughly with us during that difficult period,
Mm.
I stuck with the company.
Wow.
Because we had situations wherein some of the salespeople did, I mean, oh, fraud has happened. So such major level of fraud has happened. Even if I do a small fraud, what is wrong in that? So I will take this account and go to somebody else.
Right.
People did that
Right.
at that point of time. It happened. But some of the people stuck because of their own values and things like that. And more importantly, because the way ASM communicated with all of us. And when you have a distributed team across the world, you need to be really good with what you are writing
Right.
for everybody to feel that, okay, things are bad. They are
But
going to be even, worse because of the investigation. But there is a leadership team that is taking care of us, and we will survive this. And that's what happened. So to summarize, basically, I would say those experiences kind of, molded the way I'm thinking. And that is why taking care of your team is very important for me, irrespective of whichever position I am in. My next level and my team is very important. They have to be managed, and more importantly, they need to be taken care of.
yes.
There is, you know, uh, and psychologically safe. That's very important
Mm.
for the team to thrive, basically.
Right. Right.
And as you go up, naturally the team sizes increase, the influence increases. So I thought this is the best way of doing it.
Wow. Wow. The way you explained how you see leadership, not as execution, but as
Right.
stewardship,
Right.
really, is it's like many leaders aspire to, but very few articulate this clearly. So, thank you for that, and I wish you all the
Absolutely.
best for your future endeavors.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charu, for having me on this. And when we have these kind of discussions, sometimes, it is emotional, but at the end of the day, it can be overwhelming in that respect that, okay, you have gone through all of these things. You have learned from it. Now let's, you know, put it to the best use possible
Right.
and it's a reflection. As they say, retrospective, look is always 2020.
Right.
But the more important thing also is that what you learn from it and how do you, take it forward from there.
Looking forward.
So, yeah, thank you for having me, and this was great. This was very, very interesting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vinod, for joining us today and sharing your journey so generously. Your
Absolutely.
career reminds us that leadership isn't always loud, but it's always consequential. From improving
Yes.
operational performance and inventory discipline to shaping ERP execution, to leading customer delivery across geographies, and now running programs where SLAs, people, and financial outcomes must move together. You've shown what modern leadership really looks like: clarity under pressure, calm in escalation, and the discipline to turn complexity into execution. On behalf of Directors Institute, World Council of Directors, and everyone watching and listening today, thank you for your time and your insight.